Hello, everyone. I just wanted to talk this morning about living a life uh, directed towards gaining power and maybe money and influence, and living a life directed towards gaining reflection and thinking about contemplating life and what's important. And the reason I want to compare these things is that, from my perspective, as far as I can see, and I'm sure it's very flawed, but it seems to me that both are kind of stemming from the same idea of kind of a root of fear and misunderstanding. So when you want to gain power, you want control over your environment, and usually the need for control stems from a feeling of maybe fear or not quite understanding something, and so you want control over it. And the best way is to have power, and the best way to gain power is to gain power over other people. And the best way to gain power over other people, of course, is to move up ranks in the social ladder. And usually moving towards a life of contemplation and maybe meditation and reflection comes from a place of maybe not understanding, and you're afraid of something, you have a lot of anxiety, and so you start thinking about things, meditating, trying to calm yourself down. And so both of these things are sort of coming from a place of maybe fear of death. And so you try and overcome death, you try and take power over death, or fear of death. And so you try and contemplate death, think about death, and overcome that fear of death. But both are coming from that same place, I think, motivation of a fear base. And so I think the differences, and this is something that I've struggled with, and part of the reason why I've been a little averse to meditation is because I saw this root as being the same. And so how can money and power be good? How can wanting money and power be not good, and wanting to meditate and contemplate and reflect be good? But they're both stemming from this same foundation. And I think because money and power involves standing on either the shoulders or the heads of other people, either climbing on top of other people in some way, or pushing other people down below you, so to speak. Whereas contemplation and meditation and reflection usually involves kind of bringing your ego down, bringing yourself down, and not hurting other people in the process or standing on other people's shoulders. With reflection, you're looking for equality and finding how everyone is equal and you are not special, and at the same time everyone is special. Whereas with working towards money and power, you're trying to overcome this fear, whatever it is, but you're doing it in a way that encourages yourself being special. Now, in an ideal world, there would be no base of fear, and so a person could work towards money and power without stepping on other people's heads, pushing them down, or crawling up a social ladder, and the need for reflection and contemplation might not even exist, honestly, if nobody was afraid of things like death or social status or any of these sorts of things. But I really think that a lot of times power can bring forth an inequality that means that some people will always suffer for it, whereas a life of reflection, the only person that might be suffering is hopefully you, and the purpose is to try and bring down the overall suffering. You're trying to care for yourself, you're trying to hopefully care for other people, and so it's a more of a selfless act, maybe, or at least less selfish, whereas a lot of times trying to gain money and influence and power can lead to or stem from a need for selfishness. You need to be on top so that you don't have to feel insecure anymore, because you know you are accomplished and people maybe look up to you, and so you can feel good about yourself. Whereas reflection and contemplation, you don't need anybody to look up to you. You don't need any validation, and you know what's important, and so you can live a life where what you need from people is simply a proper, true connection, and you maybe will see everybody as more equal and really care for them and not feel like you need to have that upper hand and you need to have that respect and social standing. And I really do notice for myself these days that the want to live a life of reflection and contemplation is calling to me, but the desire to have some sort of social status feels more and more encouraged and necessary each year. I need to move up in the social ladder to get a better job in order to be able to sustain my living situation. And I want to, I want to grow on YouTube enough that I can start getting monetized and get income from that. And so I need to move up the YouTube social ladder. And so that's in the back of my mind, and some other things as well. And so as much as I want to live a life of reflection and I want to encourage a life of reflection, and that's honestly the whole point of the YouTube channel in the first place, I also feel the inevitable social pressure to move up in social status and gain some sort of power. And in a lot of ways, it feels like life is sort of almost easier that way. And in this big world, it's easier when you're nice to people. Of course, life's easier, but it's also easier for people to be nice to you when they think you are important, most of the time anyways. And so then it begs the question, are the people who need you to be an important person in order to respect you the sorts of people that deserve your respect, or that you even want to be around, that I want to be around, I guess I should say. And so anyways, that is just a thing that is kind of going on in the background of my life, and it's quite a pull in two different directions, it feels like. And maybe there's a healthy way to do both at the same time, to be a very respectful, honest person while also living, the life that I want to live, be that as a professional of some sort, or a YouTuber or a storyteller or an author or whatever. And of course, the more social status you have, the easier it's kind of to break into something new, like selling books. And so maybe there's a good way to balance that out. I would love to hear someone's opinion in the comments about such an idea. But that is something that I've been thinking about for a while, is this dichotomy of living a life of reflection and living a life of moving up the social ladder and gaining power and status, and those both coming from the same foundation of like fear or uncertainty. And how do you live a life in this social world that's so big and connected these days without getting too sucked into the idea of being powerful, being rich, being someone of importance, and that's what matters to you, versus being someone who is just caring and loving and just wants to live a life of understanding and simplicity, and how do those get resolved. So yeah, anyways, I hope you have enjoyed this video, and take care.